right, guys, let's move on. I know we talked about him last week, and we're really sick of talking about him. Eli, you mentioned you made a note about steroids again just a minute ago. A-Rod this week met with the New York media, and actually the entire national media is down in Tampa, Florida for spring training, and basically admitted more or less to supposedly everything he did according, with steroids. Lance, let's start with you. Do you think A-Rod was sincere in admitting his steroid use, or do you think more is going to come out here in the next, couple of years?
I think he was sincere in admitting his use, and to what else will come out, I don't know. I mean, he might have a lot more skeletons in his closet. He is a world-class professional athlete, and for him to say things that he didn't know the instructions of injecting steroids into himself for 3 years, and didn't know if it even gave him a performance enhancement. I just think that's ridiculous, and I don't know if I truly believe him. I admire him for coming out and saying, I did this and I was wrong, but...
Yeah. Eli, do you think A-Rod kind of had to admit all this? Weren't his hands kind of tied?
Exactly. He had no choice. I mean, if he kept denying... Well, all right, let's look at two different ends of the spectrum. Jason Giambi, a few years ago, comes out, yes, I did steroids, yes, I hit a bunch of home runs, it was fun while it lasted, I'm sorry. That was it. Are we talking about Jason Giambi? Barry Bonds, deny. He's in court. He's going through, a bunch of stuff, still getting a lot of negative media for that. So A-Rod could either have taken that path, or he's gonna, deal with, with ongoing allegations, or he could just straight up be like, look, I did it. I'm sorry. Let's move on. He said he wants to move on. He seemed pretty sincere in his gentle baby blue sweater. But, I mean, at the same time, he says, I was 25, I was young, I was stupid, I'm not even 20. I know that if I book a flight down to South America, inject myself with stuff in order to get an edge in intramural basketball, that's probably illegal. Just common sense.
Eli does that, by the way, just for the record.
So it's like, he's saying he's 25 and a stupid kid, but you've been a professional athlete for 7 years. You're not that young anymore when you're making these decisions. Yeah. So, I mean, I bet it was genuine enough for the public, but I still don't like the excuses he was making. For example, he said, quote, I don't even know if I did them right, or maybe that wasn't a direct quote, but, and it's like, well, why did you test positive if you didn't do them right? So.
All right, yeah, let's get Lance jump in there. There's been a lot of talk about all these guys, which the list is piling up right now. The guys that have done steroids, not making the Hall of Fame. Do you think now that A-Rod's has admitted it, and maybe we can get past that, do you think that'll help his Hall of Fame credentials down the line?
No, it'll hurt. I think that...
Do you think he's in or out?
I think he's out. He could hit 800 home runs, so I think that they will keep him out.
Okay.
If you're going to keep out the all-time hits leader and Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame for betting when he was a manager, I think that...
Here's a better question. Does it matter? Do you feel like it matters if people don't make the Hall of Fame anymore? Does our generation of sports fans, do we even care? It's fun. It's this old group of sports writers basically voting on guys like Jim Rice didn't get in because he had a beef with the media. I mean, that doesn't say anything about what he did as a player. Has the Hall of Fame kind of lost some of its muster because of a lot of these allegations coming out? Some of the best players of the '90s having no shot at the Hall just because of their not just because it's a big deal, but because of their steroid use.
Yeah, I think it has. I think that it would hurt even more if these guys got into the Hall of Fame because they cheated for a couple of seasons and put up incredible numbers.
Sure.
I think that it would make it even more.
Okay.
So.
What about Big Papi's call for steroid users to be banned for a year?
He's a Red Sox. He has to say that about A-Rod. I mean, but he's got. That's just the way that the Boston media is, right? I mean, they gotta.
I don't know if it was just Boston. I think it was everything, all the media.
Yeah, but if he had supported A-Rod, then they would have been like, oh, well, why is David Ortiz supporting a Yankee, A-Rod? A very hated Yankee at that. So.
Eli, what are your thoughts?
I think Papi doesn't have a lot of say in things.
There's a lot of say in home runs.
Right, in things that involve home runs, yeah. Not a bad idea, but I mean, there are a lot of other ideas out there for the punishments that should be placed upon steroid users. And
what would you do?
What would I do?
What would you do to first-time steroid abusers?
A suspension is definitely necessary. I think you gotta attack the pocketbook in terms of how you punish steroid users, because ultimately you can ban people from games, but they're in the league to get paid. They're professionals. Take away some salary, or if not, a certain amount of payment and games, and then go from there. So that's probably what I do.
Lance, final words?
Yeah, I like the suspension for a year idea. I think that it's such a one-strike policy that, I think that if you cheat, 50 games isn't that much time. It's only, a third of the season. You need to really, set an example. And I think that if, they were to suspend A-Rod, for instance, for maybe half the season or the full season, I think that would really, really scare other athletes to not use them. But at the same time, I guess most steroid users are probably minor league players anyway, trying to make it to the majors. So it's hard to say without those other 103 players on that list. So.
All right, cool. Strong comeback for Lance towards the end there. We're gonna give him the point.